Anyway, shall we talk about it? That Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they're going to Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. And maybe I messed up the graphic. Maybe you messed up the graphic. Denver is actually should be plus 1.5 on the graphic.
No,
Wait,
I
did it just flip?
I
Are we
looked on
sure about that?
I looked on ESPN. Denver is now a 1.5 point favorite.
Let me see, because FanDuel, the last time I checked, I'm doing this live. If that's the case, if that FanDuel still has Denver as plus 1.5.
On ESPN, I just looked. Denver is listed as a minus 1.5 point favorite.
So it is a pick 'em then, basically either way. And again, well, I think it just goes to show you that no matter what, the league is not respecting Denver because they're the one seed. They're home. They're coming off a bye. Buffalo barely beat that Jacksonville Jaguars game in a game where Jacksonville really mostly controlled the second half. And if it wasn't for the tush push, you could make a case that Buffalo should have lost that game. And now they're going into Denver, a place that's very hard to play, as only 1.5 point underdogs. To me, it is the matchup of Josh Allen versus Bo Nix, and people not seeing Bo Nix as an elite quarterback. I think Bo Nix is very good, but I think Bo Nix has struggled to play against good teams this season, and he has struggled to play a complete game this season. And I think that could ultimately be the Buffalo Bills' downfall.
You mean the Denver Broncos downfall?
And yes, excuse me, the Denver Bronco downfall.
I do think I understand what you're saying, but that Broncos defense is legit. They can get after the passer. They I think they will make life difficult for Josh Allen. Um, and I believe Buffalo just lost Gabe Davis for the season.
They did, and they also watched Shavers. They currently have right now only three healthy wide receivers. Khalid Shakir, Keon Coleman, excuse me, and Brandon Cooks on their roster. Look at us. We're both coughing away here.
I know. Um, and that's why I think Denver has the slight advantage going into this game. Kind of like Jacksonville. I thought the Jaguars were the most complete team in the AFC. It feels like Denver, at least in my opinion, is the second most complete team, if you get what I mean. I like their running backs, especially Jaleel McLaughlin. Um, um, no, RJ Harvey. There we go. Um, and then, of course, with the defense, you have, the reigning defensive player of the year, Pat Surtain. Good luck throwing against him. Um, and again, you have the new version of the Orange Crush defense. And I like Cortland Sutton. I think he is turning into a number one wide receiver. You've got Evan Ingram at tight end. I just think Denver, because of that, it will be a mid-level scoring game. I don't think it'll be like a 34-31 type of game. I could see this being like a 27-24 type of game. Kind of basically like the Jacksonville game, but with Denver coming out on top.
So for the record, DraftKings also has Denver as minus 1.5. FanDuel has Buffalo at minus 1.5. So again, it's a pick 'em game. I do think that this game comes down to again Josh Allen. I think he's just going to make one more play because I did feel like Josh Allen, like you. I thought the Jaguars had a legitimate case to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And I do feel like that Bills Jaguars game that we saw this past Sunday could have been the real AFC championship game.
Oh, I agree. Honestly, the Super Bowl I really wanted to see was the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Chicago Bears. Because think about some of the storylines we would have gotten in that game. You got two quarterbacks who were drafted number one overall. um, and kind of written off Caleb. You know, we're giving him a little bit of a pass for last year, but still, people are like, what is going on with Caleb? And Trevor Lawrence, he has all this hype coming out of Clemson, and then it didn't translate into the NFL right away. And then on top of that, you got Liam Cohen, who I believe is a rookie head coach, if I'm not
Yes, he
mistaken.
is.
And then Ben Johnson, also in his first year. Um, so I think that would have been a great Super Bowl matchup because you've got all those storylines. Again, two quarterbacks who were drafted #1 overall, um, two head coaches in their rookie seasons. I thought it would have been a great Super Bowl.
So this game's going to take place on CBS with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. And a fun fact here is that every single one of Buffalo's playoff games since 2020 have been on CBS. The last Buffalo playoff game that was not on CBS was that divisional round game between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen that took place on NBC. That game that featured the 99-yard pick six.
Ah, okay. Um, and I believe the game between Green Bay and Denver this season was on CBS with Nance and
Yes, it
Romo.
was.
And the game in Denver between Kansas City and Denver was on CBS with
Yep.
Nance and Romo.
And by the
So,
way, a lot of people are making fun of Romo, saying he had no idea what he was talking about because he said that the winner of the Jaguars Bills had a chance to win the Super Bowl. And well, of course they did. No, that's not true. As much as we like the Panthers, nobody thought the Panthers could win the Super Bowl this year. Even if we both thought they maybe could be able to beat the Rams, no one was picking the Panthers to win the Super Bowl. People were legitimately picking Jacksonville and Buffalo to both go to the Super Bowl, and my preseason pick to go to the Super Bowl was the Buffalo Bills.
yeah, my preseason pick, well, both of them are now out, Baltimore and Green Bay.
Let's get to the NFC side where I can hate watch this game because I hate both these teams. Between the Niners and the Seahawks, Kyle Shanahan, just there's something about him I don't like. There's something about Brock Purdy I just don't like. There's something about Sam Darnold I just don't like. And so I'm going to be having a grand old time listening to Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt on the call Saturday night, as this is a Fox game. Listen, we saw this matchup 2 weeks ago. We saw the Seahawks absolutely dominate the Niners offense. I think it is really hard for a team to beat a team like that 2 times in a 3 week span. I think the bye week for Seattle may actually hurt them because of the fact they are such a young team. Oftentimes, a veteran team that needs rest, a bye is good for them. A young team that's used to playing a bye sometimes is not good for them. And interestingly enough, in the wild card round, we saw teams like the Packers, like the Eagles, um, even teams like well, those would be the main two, I guess. The Packers and Eagles who excuse me, rested their starters in week 18 and then lost, excuse me, in the wild card round. So we'll see. I think it's a very close game. I would definitely take the points here with the Niners, but I do think the Seahawks only to win the game.
Seattle lost to San Francisco in Seattle back in week 1. I think the score was like 17-13. So it's interesting that we're already getting round 3 just a couple weeks after they played each other for the #1 seed and the division title in week 18. And as you said, Seattle's defense absolutely shut down San Francisco. And now with George Kittle out, even more of the focus is going to be on Christian McCaffrey in this game. I think that makes the task a lot easier for Seattle because as as we saw, this offense runs as Christian McCaffrey goes. if you can shut down Christian McCaffrey, you basically shut down the 49ers offense.
Yeah, and Philly, I mean, we really did for the most part shut down San Francisco in the running game. It was more of McCaffrey in the passing game. And then out of nowhere, Demarcus Robinson, the former Chief, the former Ram, had a big play. It wasn't even Jawan Jennings who really played that great. Again, it was more Robinson. And now they're probably going to get Ricky Pearsall back for this game. I think it's a very interesting. I think it's a low scoring game, but I do think it's going to be really tough for San Francisco to go in there and win outright.
I mean, we've seen how loud Lumen Field gets when it's playoff time. I I don't know how San Francisco can do it, um, but we've seen them go on the road and win games we didn't expect them to. Hell, I didn't expect them to go into Philadelphia and beat the Eagles, but that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I will say this right here and right now. If one of these two teams represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, I will not be a happy person.
Fair enough.
All right, let's get to the defensive battle that's incoming between the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots because 14 points may be enough to win this one.
You're honestly right. Um, if Houston's offense could just catch up to their defense, I would view them more as legitimate Super Bowl contenders because that defense is absolutely legit and they can cause absolute havoc. Um, and yes, I like Drake May. I've been saying he should be number one in terms of MVP all season. But, you know, we saw Myles Garrett by himself cause havoc against the Patriots.
He had 5 sacks in that game.
Yes. And now you've got
Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson both coming off that edge. And by the way, we saw Houston's defense last night completely obliterate the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we saw a Charger defense, which is not get a lot of pressure, get 5 sacks on Drake May and that New England Patriots offense. I've been saying all week that going into last night, the Patriots should have rooted hard for the Houston Texans because I do think it's going to be very difficult for the New England Patriots to move the ball on this team. I think it's going to come down to turnovers. And as much as I like Drake May and the Patriots, as much as a good season I think they have, I think the Houston Texans, if they can run the football, if they can play keep away, Nico Collins, though, is going to be the big one. If he does not play in this game because of that concussion, where is the offense going to come from if you are the Houston Texans?
I do like this comment by Grandizer. He says, Josh roots for the Texans. Ex Browns players there. No, I don't root for the Texans.
Yeah, how about this? A 6-3 game. I mean, last night the Pittsburgh game felt like it was going to end 9-7. The Patriots Chargers game felt that way for a while. I would say somewhere between like 17-13, 14-13, 14-10, I think is on the board.
Yeah. I do think the Patriots have a bit of an edge in this game because Vrabel is their head coach. He's been there, done that. Granted, it didn't go well with him, in Tennessee. But in 2019, he got him to the AFC Championship, and they had the Kansas City Chiefs on the ropes, at least for maybe the first half of the game. Obviously,
I would say the first quarter, but
fair enough.
Yeah. And you know what else? In a year where, and I talk about this all the time, right? In the NFC, 3 out of the 4 remaining coaches are offensive. The only defensive remaining coach is Mike McDonald. But this year has been a different year in the NFL. It's been the year of unpredictability. It's been the year of the defensive coach. In the AFC right now, the only offensive head coach remaining is Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. And I think that this Houston Texans team has the best defense left out of anybody. I do think there is a scenario where the Texans not only make the Super Bowl, but they win it.
Think about this for a second. If the Houston Texans win against New England and Buffalo beats um, Denver, the AFC Championship game would be in Houston, and it would be a rematch of that Thursday night game
In
where the
which the Texans absolutely took apart Buffalo's offensive line.
and that's exactly where I was going. So I'm not just going to dismiss that as a possibility. I think you could.
No, I agree with you. Like
Um,
I'm looking at this line. 3 points, I think, is too much. I think I'm going to take the Houston side of it. New England may win by 3, but I feel pretty safe in saying I think Houston's the play.
I will say this: the NFC, in terms of like the games themselves, I would say the NFC is probably the better conference in terms of playoff teams remaining, but the more intriguing games are in the AFC side, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
you know what's going to be weird this year is on Saturday is the CBS and the Fox game. On Sunday is the ESPN and the NBC game. So we're not going to see CBS and Fox on Sunday at all, which is just going to feel weird to me.
Yeah. And what's even stranger is usually whoever is broadcasting the Super Bowl doesn't debut their new score bug until the Super Bowl. But we already got to see what it's going to look like
Yeah,
because they used it for the Chargers Patriots game, which is
yeah.
highly unusual.
By the way, it's very similar to the old one. I couldn't even tell the difference.
I mean, the old one was that like circle um where you had the two low. It was just like that
Yeah,
the half
yeah.
circle. But no, getting back to this game, I'm looking at New England in terms of their offense. I know that a lot of the passing game is going to go to Stephon Diggs,
Former
but
Texan, by the way.
yes, but I think they should actually utilize Hunter Henry more in this game.
I was gonna say I think Keyshawn Booty's got to be a big play down the field. I think they have to find a way because I think Derek Stingley is going to probably take Stephon Diggs. They have to find a way to get other wide receivers, whether it's Pop Douglas or Keyshawn Booty, the ball out in open space, maybe even Travion Henderson in the passing game, along with Hunter Henry, because we know Hunter Henry is going to be good. I'm not disputing that point. What I'm saying is, which other of the young players that we don't expect is going to have to step up?
And that's why I think you first establish the passing game with a veteran like Hunter Henry, and then you get some of the young guys involved.
I just think this game could come down to Will Anderson or Danielle Hunter beating a rookie Will Campbell and stripping Drake May.
You very well could be right. Um, and I like this quarterback matchup too because Drake May and CJ Stroud, like we saw what CJ could do at Ohio State, and we were all expecting big things from him. And, you know, you and I had the argument after the Cincinnati game of should he be in the MVP conversation or not? And we're having the same type of discussion with Drake May, and he's only in his second year. I do think CJ is a bit of a victim of his own success based on what he did in his rookie season. Kind of like what happened with Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
Although with Jaden, it's not necessarily his fault because he suffered those injuries, but it's the same type of situation, if you will.
Well, as we say here on the graphic, it'll come down to the final possession. The Rams are taking on the Chicago Bears in Chicago, and the Bears at home are underdogs by 3.5. And so to me, when it comes down to this game, I think, the Bears, they have lived and died on second half comebacks. They were behind 21-3 against the Green Bay Packers early on. That game Saturday night was very reminiscent of the Week 16 game in Chicago where the Bears made that second half comeback. I don't think they're going to be able to do that against this Rams team. I think Sean McVay is going to have a very good game plan planned against the Bears. I think the Bears they have to come out fast. They have to score. What's interesting is last week on the show, we had both said that if the Bears had won the toss, they should receive the ball. They did so against Green Bay. They got a field goal out of it. They're going to have to score more points than three, I believe, in the first half to beat this Rams team because, again, I think Sean McVay is going to come out. I think they're going to establish a good passing game. I think the Bears' best hope is that the Rams maybe struggle because there could be some participation issues potentially early or later on in the game.
I could see this being like a 37-34 type of game. When you've got the likes of Devontae, Puka, Kyron Williams. I forget the other running back the Rams have on their roster at the moment.
Blake Corum.
Yes, Blake Corum. Thank you. And you've got Tyler Higbee. I think he's still the tight end for the Rams, if I'm not mistaken.
He's out for the year, so they have Parkinson, I believe.
Oh yeah. You're right. My bad. But and then with the Bears, you got DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Colston Loveland, who has become
come on. Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Colston Loveland, you and I have talked about how if you want to be a legit team in the NFL, you got to have a number one wide receiver. The Bears do. He just so happens to play tight end.
Grandizer saying Higbee is back. He did play in the last game. Okay, thank you, Grandizer. I appreciate that comment. But I don't think the score is going to allow for this thing to be 34-31. I think it's going to be like 24-21. I think the weather's going to play a factor in it. And I just worry that with all these comebacks by the Rams, by the Bears, with their 6 comebacks under 2 minutes left, eventually their luck is going to run out. And as much as I am rooting for the Bears to get to the Super Bowl on the NFC side, I do think it ends here.
If the Bears can figure it out with their defense, they are legit Super Bowl contenders. I think they are way too reliant on takeaways.
Yes. And also, they don't, a lot like Carolina, they do not get pressure over the quarterback, and they're going to have to win this game.
Yes. If the Rams allow the Bears to figure it out defensively, look out. That could really cause problems for the Rams.
I think, again, very similar to the game against Green Bay. The Bears have to get the ball first. They have to score relatively quickly, keep the crowd engaged. What did you think of Ben Johnson bypassing all those punts at midfield early on in the game and going for it?
That's been his mentality all season. And I think the players have fully bought in on it. So it made sense with who he is and who he has been. But were they necessarily the right calls in those situations? No, but I'm not going to disagree with it because that's how he's played it all season.
Well, especially the one early on where they had the crossing routes and it was batted down. Luther Burton was wide open. You had the right play call against man coverage. You had the right scheme. They just couldn't execute. They're going to have to find a way to block Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. They're also on a backup left tackle. Their rookie left tackle got hurt in that game on Saturday. I do find it interesting that both of these teams who played on Saturday are going to play on Sunday, where the Niners who played on Sunday now have to play on Saturday. Doesn't seem very fair to me, but nonetheless, that's where we're at.
I know. Because think about it, like the 49ers, they played on Monday Night Football against Indy, and then they get Sunday night against the Bears, and then they have to turn around and play Saturday night against Seattle.
So we have a comment here that basically says, which one team are we rooting for to win the Super Bowl? Which teams do we hope to lose this weekend? I'm going to answer it this way as we wrap up our divisional round preview. I am rooting for a Bills Bears Super Bowl. I do not think it's going to happen. I think the most likely Super Bowl right now that I see is either the Rams or the Seahawks against either the Bills or the Texans. That's me personally. Do you have a rooting interest or are you rooting for a particular matchup now that your Jacksonville Chicago Super Bowl is no longer happening?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I really wanted Jacksonville, Chicago. As I illustrated all those storylines, um, I would love to see Seattle back in the Super Bowl. Of course, they are my favorite team from the NFC. I have been a long-time Seahawks fan, but so in terms of who's the one team I don't want in the Super Bowl, that would be the LA Rams. I do not like them at all. I think Stan Kroenke is a piece of crap because he completely screwed over the city of St. Louis. Um, so I would love to see Seahawks Bills in the Super Bowl. Um, but the Super Bowl matchup I don't want to see would be either Texans Rams or Texans 49ers. I don't like the 49ers, and I just think Texans 49ers. I think Houston would just blow out San Francisco, and it would not be fun to watch.
Yeah, we both agree on San Francisco. I do think this has been the year of new blood, right? Like Chicago, Buffalo, Houston, you know,
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Like the Rams have won a Super Bowl recently. San Francisco's been to a couple of Super Bowls recently. Seattle. I know it's a new decade, but they're relatively fresh. I still think in people's mind. New England has won championships before. I do think if there's a year where it's like we could get Texans versus Bears. Like I think this could be that year.
Yeah. Um, and to further enhance why I wanted Jacksonville versus Chicago, Jacksonville is one of four teams who have never been to the Super Bowl, alongside the Browns, the Texans, and the Lions. And the Bears haven't won a Super Bowl since 1985, and they haven't been to the Super Bowl since 2006, when they, of course, lost to Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts.